This is Lab 3, your first hack part 2 for the penetration testing and risk management course. So for this presentation, as requested by the director of IT, I have been tasked with presenting my plan for mitigation strategies at an upcoming conference. I have prepared a comprehensive presentation, and here it is. An individual with the right expertise can potentially breach our system. They may start by pinpointing open ports and services running on the Keyoptrix machine using the nmap commands. They can start looking for vulnerabilities and concentrate to exploit them. Once they have gained access through the directory, they can input the new credentials and potentially have access to our system. The upcoming slides will illustrate the steps taken to exploit the Keyoptrix Level 1 machine and the essential information our organization needs to stay vigilant. So for this presentation, we're going to start with the command msf console. On this command in Kali Linux, it is used to start a Metasploit framework console. This Metasploit used for penetration testing and security research. It is a powerful tool. The console provides a command line interface for assessing Metasploit's features such as exploiting vulnerabilities, managing payloads, and conducting various security tests. This slide represents the scanner that was done through /SMB/SMB_version. In this Metasploit is to identify the version of the service message block, which is the SMB service running on a target. This module scans a range of the IP addresses and returns information about the SMB version, which is useful for determining specific vulnerabilities that can be exploited in the system using older or insecure versions of this module. This version that I was running was on Samba 2.2.1a. It is quite an old version of the Samba software, which allows files and printer sharing between different operating systems on the network. This specific version has several known vulnerabilities that attackers could exploit. Then we ended up using this command. This remote root exploit is a type of cyber attack that allows an attacker to gain root or administrative access to a system over a network. This means that the attacker can execute commands with the highest level of privileges, potentially giving them full control over the system. And after that, once that command is placed, you're going to go to the directory, and the ls command was used to list the content of the directories and display files and directories within the current director by default. Once I was able to access that, I created my username and my password with my last name, as you can see here. And it's as easy as this, that your service or your system could be exploited. So it says that the mission was completed. It indicates right here that the security of a system has been breached and we have experienced a compromise. We're going to start by defining the taxonomy of attacks by providing the definition summary and later on the categorization of the following attacks. From buffer overflow, it's a program that writes an exploit to identify a weakness in a poorly written code that fails to verify a predetermined amount of memory space. The exploit then inserts an executable code that overflows the buffer, which is your memory area, in order to increase the attacker's privileges. This can lead to unexpected behavior, crashes, or the execution of malicious code. The privilege escalation involves exploiting a bug, design flaw, or configuration oversight to obtain elevated access to resources that are typically protected from an application or the user. The attacker uses this to gain higher level of access, often moving from the lower privileged user to the administrator or the root level. For rootkits, it compromises a malicious software tool that allows an authorized user to take control of the computer system without being detected. It creates to conceal the presence of a specific process from typically detection methods and can be utilized to keep privileged access. Some examples could be memory corruption, Another one would be vertical escalation for higher privileges, horizontal escalation to gain access to resources of another user or similar privileges. Or for the kernel level rootkits, it operates at a kernel level, providing the highest level of access. These are just some examples. Our next one will be the Trojans. They're malicious software programs that disguises themselves as legitimate software to trick users from installing them. Once installed, they can perform a variety of harmful actions such as stealing data, stealing other malware. For backdoors, it bypasses normal authentication of encryption in a computer system, product, or embedded devices. Backdoors allow unauthorized access to the system and often installed by malware or by the system developers for maintenance purposes. For viruses, it is a type of malicious software that, when executed, replicates the inserting copies of itself into other computer programs, data files, or other boot sectors of the hard drive. In summary, what it is that viruses can cause a range of harmful effects, from displaying annoying messages to corrupting data or taking control of the system. Returning-oriented programming defines as a security exploit technique in which the attacker used control to call stack of executed, chaining together existing coding snippets. Some of the examples could be remote access Trojans provide attackers with remote control over the infected system, or the software backdoors implanted in software applications or in operating systems, file infectors that attach themselves to executable files, or gadget change, which is a sequence of instructions that end in a returned instruction and used to perform complex operations. Our last one will be common social engineering attacks. It is defined as manipulating individuals, is at its core social engineering attacks, leading them to disclosing confidential information or carrying out actions that undermine security. These attacks rely on human interactions and often involve tricking people into breaking standard security practices. One example could be phishing, fraudulent attempt to obtain sensitive information by disguising as a trustworthy identity. I ended up using this visual to categorize the taxonomy of the systematic of cyber attacks based on their characteristics, techniques, and goals. I started with the malware, which are your viruses, Trojan, rootkits, backdoors. We have the code attackers, which is your return-oriented programming, the web-based attacks, which is your social engineering, operating systems, which is your buffer overflow or privilege escalation. So these are some of the mitigations that we can use in order to protect our system. We have the least privileged, regular auditing and monitoring. We're going to be patching our management system, access control, segmentation and isolation, user training and awareness, which we're doing right now, and using multi-factor authentication. By implementing the specific security measures, our company will be able to greatly improve the level of protection for our system and effectively defend against any potential privilege escalation attacks. In the upcoming training sessions, we will emphasize the critical importance of maintaining a high level of vigilance at all times. Thank you. These are the references used.